Hello, everybody, and welcome back to The Insider. This week, I'm delighted to be joined by Ricky Doyle. Ricky Doyle is the director of a company called Practice Labs, but I think I'll let Ricky do the introduction, if I may.
Thanks, Ben. And I've given myself a promotion since we last spoke. I now call myself the CEO. That's a fancy title, but I'm the CEO and co-founder of Practice Labs. We've been around for longer than you care to remember. So we actually established the business back in 2006, trying to solve a problem. We came from a corporate IT background, and the problem we're trying to solve then, which is still relevant today, is how do we get young engineers and those on their early stage of their IT careers that opportunity to develop those core practical skills without kind of tearing the whole production environment down. So that's what we do, is we provide these digital skills environments, anything from a Microsoft Office right to a Cisco networking lab. And it's all about hands-on skills, and our customers range from online universities to corporates to content providers who are doing video-based training. That's the world we fit in.
Yeah, awesome business. And you're global. You work across different continents, don't you?
Yeah, we fortunate. We established here in the UK, and our headquarters are here in sunny Dartford. I make a joke with our
sunny.
Yeah, our US friends. Yeah, you might have the Golden Gate Bridge, but we've got Queen Elizabeth.
Yeah,
that's right behind us. And then we have a small subsidiary in Australia, a little joint venture in Southeast Asia, and then we have a little bit bigger operation in the US. So, we try and span the globe, and the goal or the ambition is to have a truly global business.
Yeah, I'm really keen to discuss a little bit about that further down the line, because I can only imagine the challenges that you faced during the pandemic, because I know you're somebody who travels a fair amount. But can I start off kind of just understanding a little bit about how things are for you right now? I guess I'm going to guess that the problems that maybe, or the challenges that you're facing 6 months ago, are probably different ones now.
Yeah, they are definitely changed. I know when we were kind of talking about this yesterday, and you kind of said, well, do you have this challenge, this? And I was answering, yes. I think we still all have those kind of challenges on a daily basis. Has the profile changed? Yeah, I would say the profile of the problems has changed. And if you kind of think, we've all been through the same things, these now distributed workforces. So we've done, I would say, most companies and kind of services around, we've done a really good job, maybe from top down, on how we educate our managers to be better at managing their remote teams, and a lot of support. I think an observation I would make over the last little while is maybe the challenge now is less, it's almost filtered from the top down. So at the beginning, the communication at the kind of leadership and management level had to get sorted out to make sure everyone within the business environment knew what everyone was doing. I think what we're seeing now is a slightly bigger challenge around colleagues communicating, because it just hasn't filtered to that level. And you and I were joking just before we came on air. I think everyone sees this kind of 3x2 image of everyone else, and I look at you and go, man, look, Ben's looking great, and I need to sort myself out here. And it's almost, we're kind of living in a false world. And I know you've got a story that I think would be interesting to listen to. But yeah, we all see this, and no one understands what's going on behind the scenes. So, although we're sitting together and I've kind of done my hair and then put on a nice shirt, there might be 3 kids running around the background. My wife may just be laid off work, but I'm trying to be professional. And in an office environment, you might not even have to have that water cooler or coffee chat with someone. Even if it's just overhearing it, you can be a little bit more empathetic to that person. So now we're communicating. This is what we're seeing. The communication one-on-one can become a little bit fractious, because I'm under pressure. You say something wrong, I actually don't know how to deal with that. And because we've got this very synchronized event that you and I are talking, I get off it and then I vent to my family, and I've got no real way to manage it. But I think your story is great to kind of highlight.
Well, I think it's interesting because just picking up on your points there, I think initially it was, can everyone work from home? Obviously, and there was loads of jokes and memes, was there, about people going wearing a shirt and tie and wearing shorts or their pajamas underneath the desk and all that kind of stuff. And then I think we all became quite comfortable that our staff and everybody on the other end of the screen is okay. And then you kind of take it for granted, and then you probably don't really think about the bigger picture outside of it. So yeah, the story that we were talking about on there just now was my girlfriend actually lives in a flat in Clapham, and bless her, she's because you always worry about people who are based in flats. She's fine. It's Clapham's a great area for outdoors, and there's lots of things to do, and on Clapham Common, and she goes out running and stuff like that. So she's fine in that respect, but she sits right next to the window, and I think this is the point. When everyone has a Zoom, you want to sit next to windows, you get light in and all this kind of stuff. She sits right next to a window. So, and then and on her left hand side where she sits, there used to be a police station which has recently been closed down and boarded up. Now, a couple of weeks ago, squatters moved into this building, so she's sitting there. She works for a big bank, and she's speaking to investors and stuff all over the world. And she's in the peripheral vision, she has these squatters who have moved in. And then over the last couple of weeks, she's had police coming to move these squatters out. And she's trying to stay professional, but like I say, in the peripheral vision on the left hand side, there's all this commotion going on, and you just don't kind of think of you just take it for granted that everybody can work from home and there's no distractions, but I think there is. And like I say, I think it's good to be aware of these now moving forward. And what I wanted to pick up with yourself is that you've obviously got staff all over the world. How big is the business now? Where's the breakdown of where your teams are set?
So we're still predominantly UK based. We have about 8 people in the US, so total 50. And then probably 30 here in the UK, and then 8 in the US, and then kind of distributed in the other offices. But I think it's even amplified more. And it's tough for anyone who's trying to work in a remote market. If you're not, certainly at our size, we kind of at this funny size where we're too big to be small and too small to be big. So it really not quite everything operating as you would hope it would. And we're kind of seeing this thing, expanding on, because we are unable to travel, you become even more isolated with your remote teams. So at the top level, you're still doing the right things, you're still doing the training, but again, you're not sensing what's happening on the ground in a different location. And maybe some of the things we had undervalued, and if I was, speaking to anyone who was looking at setting up an international operation, I think sometimes you get caught up in looking at what's the need. You go to a new market because you want to go and sell more. That's the bottom line. That's kind of probably not the primary driver. Or you're putting in support services to support your customers you've won, from your home location. And you get caught up in that, and you facilitate all these kind of sales elements and a little bit of support. But what you do forget about, and not consciously, is the people side of it. So we've done in the UK, we have a crew and culture team, which is in the old world HR, and the only reason I don't like the term HR is kind of growing up in the corporate world was anytime you had to go see HR, it was a bad thing, and I didn't want that to be representative of Practice Lab. So I wanted it to be a function within our business that was representative of the crew themselves, supported our culture, but it was really independent. It's not a management tool for us to kind of utilize for hiring and firing. They're there to facilitate and support the business and the crew. And one thing we probably haven't done is valued that enough and put it into our remote locations, because you kind of think, well, what do you need? It's a small team. It's 8 people. Why? It's hard to justify that kind of additional investment in that. But in hindsight, it was probably maybe one of the first things we should have done, because that starts to help then onboarding process. You've got someone who is going to hold your hand and take you through the different areas of the business and understand what we're about. And that's something we probably haven't done as well as we should have, and certainly something we're rectifying now as we kind of take that next stage of growth. But yeah, we all know communication is the key to any success, but the most difficult thing to do, because we all seem to be rushing through it. One of the other things we try to instill at the moment here is, how do we get back to basics? Remove the noise and the fluff and all these grand gestures we want to do. Let's go back to building a very good product, supporting our customers really well, and looking after the people that in the business. And that, I think, that's the foundations for better communication.
I think your platform's so relevant, to over the last year, really, in terms of like helping people and helping customers and helping end users. So I can absolutely see the value there. In terms of, typically, and I can say this quite candidly, whenever I've worked with Ricky in the past, whenever I'm trying to kind of reach him, I get replies at all different times of the day, because you're in different time zones, aren't you? So typically you'd be traveling quite a lot, wouldn't you? So how's this changed for you? I mean, what percentage of your working time would you normally be overseas?
Yes, probably before last year, I was away between 4 and 5 months a year. Traveling, and it wasn't concentrated, it was very fragmented, so very irregular. But I think what I've learned from it, and I've tried to use these times to kind of reflect and see how we would do things differently going forward. I think you get caught up, and it's very much a mindset thing. I have to be there. If I don't go, the whole world's going to collapse around me. And probably going forward, it's giving the people more trust is not necessarily the right word, but just empowering them a little bit more to take some responsibility, but also being selective with their travel and not having to do everything. So there's a blend. I think maybe what I've learned around this kind of whole period is, I think there's this hybrid model, whether it's the working environment of using the office base as your kind of hub, but still giving people the flexibility to work remotely is kind of the change. The same thing with commercial meetings. There is a time and place for us still to get together, and people ultimately, we want to see each other and feel how the relationship could work, but it doesn't need to be every time. I don't need to fly to the US 15, 20 times a year. It could just be 3 or 4 times a year, and we use that time wisely. So it certainly has made me reflect on those things around best use of time, and it's not always necessary to do that. I think the 3.5 by 2.5 picture of someone is just facilitates a lot of those comms without having to be face to face. But I don't believe that face to face should go away. There is still a part of us where we want to get together.
Yeah,
hybrid.
Yeah, I think that's the message I think I'm having from a lot of my customers at the moment. And I was saying, I had a podcast last week with Nigel Wilson at Scott Logic, and they just recently opened up a new office in Leeds, and he made a really good point. Although we're going to be working this kind of hybrid way moving forward, it's good to have a location and an affinity. And the company is expanding, and yes, they can expand and have people working remotely within engineering what they do, but to have an affinity and a location and the social side of your work is important. And listen, I speak to candidates all the time who are now it may be they're pretty blunt, and it's fine to say that only remote. They're only going to work remote now. This is showing the world, and there will always be purely remote positions. I've had those recently, and that's fine. If that's if that's what you want, and that's the culture, and that's the company, then absolutely fine. But I think that specifically within technologies, when the biggest challenge, and we were speaking about this before, one of the biggest challenges has been collaboration and innovation, and getting around the whiteboard and getting the post-its out and solving complex problems and innovating how you're gonna scale and develop systems. And like I say, I think that can only really be done when you're in an office. But I guess my point was, when you're in America, if you're in America, you're obviously going to be working American times. That's why you're texting me at midnight or whatever it might be. But if you're in the UK and you still look, yes, I get empowering your team, understanding your team, but there could still be issues that come up. There could be still meetings with clients that you might have had when you're in America, but on American time. Is this meaning that your day is now longer? Is this meaning that your days? Is that a challenge that you faced?
No, my day's always been 24/7 for the last.
Okay, fair enough.
Look, I think we have to be more flexible in finding those right things. So I'm poor at managing my time.
Snap.
Yeah, I think, and most of us probably are, and I'll just do whatever's required. So if I have to have a meeting at 8 o'clock at night, I'll do it. But I think what we need to give people is that little bit of flexibility to go, you know what, tomorrow you have got a later meeting, so schedule your day, start at 12 instead of doing that. But most of us, it's a very hard discipline to get right, because most of us, I think, ultimately want to do the best. I think that's just built in humans. And I say most people, some people won't, but I think generally most people want to do the best they can, so they will just work the longer day. So it's a discipline in it goes back to the empowering people to make decisions for themselves. You work to 8 o'clock, then just start later. I don't think I think maybe this last year we've realized no one needs to be a clock watcher. But yeah, it's like I say, I'm a poor example to kind of go, yes, my day has changed. It probably hasn't. It kind of just always been like that.
I think it's, that's recently with with homeschooling. I think I know, so many people on my business partner relieved it's all over, because just the working day will change, because you're factoring in homeschooling. You're working later on into the evenings after the kids have gone to bed to kind of catch up on things. But that was just the flexibility that you needed during that day. And I agree. I think that I was brought up in recruitment in a pretty hardcore sales environment where I was micromanaged, and ultimately I hated it and came away. And that's why I started. That's long story short, why I started my own business, to do it my own way. But there's always been a little bit of that in me, and wanting to be able to kind of know what my staff are doing, and wanting to be able to be there and help. And I think that recently, when we started our American operation, and I've got a chap who works for me on American times, again, I'm contactable in the evenings, but it's just kind of leaving it to him and looking after, he empowering him to look after the whole kind of American game.
Yeah,
you're at the other end of a WhatsApp message, right? But it's like I say, I think it's taught me to relax. Not that, like I say, I always have done, but it's good to really empower people and to start new areas like the American stuff. So no, absolutely. So what's next for Practice Labs then? So it sounds like you're on a really impressive journey. I didn't realize you're up to 50 people now, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so look, I kind of say to everyone sitting, we're fortunate in, if there's businesses that would have benefited from COVID, we are one of those. As everyone has transitioned to online learning, we facilitate that need. But we have the components of a really good business, but it's a challenge every day. And I joke with my business partner and some of the leadership team is, it really feels like every day you kind of put your fatigues on. It's like going to war might be a little bit dramatic, but it's a real fight, and you've got to strap everything on and really a real will to drive forward. So we've got the components of this really good opportunity going forward, but and I think a lot of people who listen to these type of things, I think, because I'm a fan of the show, but you kind of, it's great to hear that you're not alone. And I think these are the key things from it. It goes back to this thing, but I'm saying to you around the Zoom calls is, you only see a small picture of a business. So when you're always seeing this good news coming out, you go, man, we're not doing anything. We are not competing in the space. But in actual fact, when you pull back the curtains, everyone has the same challenges. We're all trying to do the best we can. We're all trying to, succeed. We're all trying to look after people. And that's, it's maybe I've got to this point of accepting that there will be challenges always. We have a good opportunity to move forward. We bring out some new assessment products and really, tapping into this back to basics idea. And look, platform is good. Hopefully the next couple of years we achieve something, and who knows what that is. But funny enough, and just to finish off, I know we're kind of running out of time. Last week, we've got this kind of HR portal now, so many of these tools internally, and I wrote our crew values. So we have this value system around challenge, respect, enjoy, and reward. Now it's going to put my own things down around, not I had to, I wanted to. I put what these things mean to me, because I thought I'd done it. But anyway, reward, and it kind of links to your question. in some way, is for me is, you know, can we really build a company that people, you know, look back on in their careers and go, that was a pretty cool place to work.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah.
That's really what drives me in terms of us forward. So, and that's why I say success is a little relative. So hopefully we'll be commercially successful so we can do these things, but ultimately is, can we be part of someone's journey that they look back on and hopefully with us for forever and a day, they go, you know, Practice Labs was a pretty cool place to work, and we had this flexibility and we had this trust, and we were empowered, and we really wanted to give something. So yeah, that's what I kind of look at the future in trying to build.
Yeah, well, I know how important that is to you, just from you know, from visiting your office and seeing your values around the, you know, sometimes you go to different companies and sometimes, dare I say it, you kind of just feel it's part of the the decor, it's part of like the make, just something they're saying. But I know that you guys kind of live and breathe it, and I know that you know had a good culture shift a few years back, and I know you do live and breathe it, and I know that, you know, from the guys that we've placed with you have obviously always echoed that. So I think the business is in a really unique space, and you know, we've got some ideas that we can bang our heads together about maybe moving forward as well, which is quite exciting. So listen, thank you very, very much for coming on. Really enjoyed it. Ricky and I actually live like one town apart from each other, so there is no excuse. As soon as where are we now? Less than 2 weeks until the beer garden's open, so let's get ourselves in there and have a catch up.
All right, Ben, good to see you.
Top man, thank you very much for coming on.
Cheers, thanks for that.